The courtroom was electric with whispers and shifting feet. The high wooden benches creaked under the weight of a crowd eager to witness what many already called a historic case. The late morning sun streamed through tall, dusty windows, casting rectangles of light across the polished wooden floor. At the center of the room, in a wheelchair, sat Walter Hayes, a blind veteran who had served 2 tours overseas. His dark suit was plain but tidy, and his hands rested calmly on the armrests. Though his eyes were hidden behind dark glasses, every movement of his head, every subtle tilt, carried the alertness of a man who had faced danger before. His attorney had just concluded a detailed summary of the assault that had brought them here, a reckless attack on Walter by Nathaniel Carrington, the governor's son, in a downtown cafe. Nathaniel lounged in the defendant's chair, his designer suit practically screaming wealth and entitlement. He smirked as though the courtroom were a theater stage and he was the star. His polished shoes tapped against the floor, a rhythmic challenge to the solemnity around him. "Do you really think this is going to stick, old man?" he sneered, leaning forward slightly toward Walter. His voice carried easily, confident, almost cruel. "You're just a blind man. How much of the world do you really see?" Walter's hand tightened subtly on the armrest, his voice even but sharp, cutting through the murmurs. "Justice isn't about who you are, Mr. Carrington. It's about what you've done. And today, that's going to matter." The judge, Judge Caprio, a man known for his stern demeanor and unflinching fairness, called for order. The gavel slammed down, echoing through the high-ceilinged room. "Order in the court," he said, his voice low, resonant, carrying an unshakable authority. "Mr. Carrington, you will behave yourself." Nathaniel let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh, a sound that grated against the quiet tension in the room. "Behave myself," he repeated, a mocking edge to his tone. "This is ridiculous. He can't even see me." Before anyone could react further, Nathaniel leaned forward impulsively, and in a shocking instant, swung his fist, connecting with Walter's shoulder. The veteran's wheelchair jolted slightly, and a collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. The gallery erupted, shouts overlapping, voices clamoring in alarm. Walter's attorney quickly moved forward to steady him, murmuring reassurances. Walter, however, remained calm, even as a flicker of pain crossed his features. Judge Caprio's gavel hit the sound block again, a thunderous command that forced silence. "Mr. Carrington," his voice, now sharp and commanding, silenced the murmurs immediately. "You just made a very serious mistake." Nathaniel froze, his smirk faltering as he glanced nervously at the judge. "This courtroom is not a playground for spoiled heirs," Judge Caprio continued, his tone deliberate, heavy with judgment. "Assaulting a witness, especially one who has served our country, is contempt of court. You will face the full extent of the law for your actions." Nathaniel's usual arrogance wavered, the color drained from his face as the weight of the words sank in. For the first time, he seemed uncertain, aware that his wealth and connections could not shield him from accountability in this moment. Walter, for his part, kept his voice calm, but there was a quiet intensity in his words when he finally spoke. "I didn't come here for revenge. I came here for justice. Let him face it, Judge." Judge Caprio nodded slightly, a sign that he understood. "Indeed, Mr. Hayes, justice is not personal, but it must be unwavering." The spectators settled back, whispers subsiding as the tension refocused. Nathaniel's lawyer rose, stammering, "Your Honor, perhaps a private discussion." "No," Judge Caprio interrupted sharply. "There will be no leniency for intimidation or cowardice. Mr. Carrington, you will remain in the courtroom and answer for your actions." Nathaniel's hands fidgeted on the desk in front of him. He opened his mouth, but no words came immediately. The young man who had been so cocky just minutes ago now looked like a schoolboy caught in the principal's office. The judge leaned slightly forward, resting his hands on the edge of the bench. "Mr. Carrington, you chose to use your physical power and social privilege to harm someone defenseless. A man who has given years of his life to protect this country, a man who cannot see the world as you do, is no threat to you. And yet, you attacked him." I didn't mean," Nathaniel started, but Judge Caprio's raised hand cut him off. "Your intent is irrelevant. Your actions are what matter. You will issue a formal apology to Mr. Hayes, you will face a court-imposed fine, and you will perform mandatory community service. This is not optional. This is not negotiable. You will also attend an anger management program and submit a report to this court confirming your participation." Nathaniel's lawyer protested, trying to interject, but the judge's gaze was unwavering, piercing. Mr. Carrington, your protests are irrelevant. You are not above the law. Today, you will understand that privilege does not excuse misconduct. You will behave as the law requires, or further consequences will follow. Walter's attorney leaned over and whispered something in his client's ear. Walter shook his head lightly, a small smile playing on his lips. No, let him learn this the proper way, he said softly. Let him understand that actions have consequences. Nathaniel's eyes flicked to Walter, searching for any sign of leniency, but found none. The veteran's calm composure was a mirror reflecting all of Nathaniel's arrogance and entitlement back at him. I apologize, Mr. Hayes, Nathaniel muttered finally. The words were awkward, forced, but unmistakably sincere under the scrutiny of Judge Caprio's watchful eye. Judge Caprio's gaze softened just slightly. An apology is only meaningful if it is accompanied by action, he said. Restitution and accountability will be your teachers. The courtroom clerk shuffled papers, preparing the official record. Let the record reflect that Mr. Carrington has been held in contempt of court for assaulting a witness and for disruption during proceedings. He will comply with all court-mandated actions immediately. Nathaniel slumped back in his chair, tension still evident in the stiff set of his shoulders. For the first time in his life, he felt the sting of real accountability. The arrogance that had insulated him from criticism seemed suddenly fragile, a thin veneer that could be broken by simple justice. Walter remained calm, but internally, he felt a quiet sense of vindication. Blindness had not stopped him from seeing the truth of the moment. He had come to the courthouse expecting to face not just a man, but the weight of an entire system that often let the powerful evade consequences. And yet, Judge Caprio had ensured that no man, regardless of lineage or wealth, could escape accountability. Mr. Hayes, are you satisfied with today's proceedings? Judge Caprio asked gently, aware that the veteran's dignity had been challenged. Walter's voice was steady. Yes, Your Honor. Justice has been served. That is all I could ask for. The gallery, previously tense and restless, began to murmur approval, many nodding in quiet respect for both the veteran and the judge. Nathaniel looked around, suddenly aware that every eye in the room was measuring him now, no longer impressed by his wealth but scrutinizing his actions and character. Judge Caprio returned his gavel to its place, a symbol of authority and closure. This court is adjourned for the afternoon. Let it be known that misconduct in this courtroom will never be tolerated, and those who serve this nation deserve the highest respect. Dismissed. The sound of footsteps echoed as the crowd slowly dispersed. Reporters jostled to capture every detail, cameras flashing, voices recording the historic moment. Outside, the late morning sun was warmer now, spilling over the courthouse steps. Walter's attorney helped him into the fresh air, and for a moment, he allowed himself a deep, calm breath. You handled yourself with dignity in there, the attorney said. Not everyone could have stayed so composed after that punch. Walter shook his head gently. It's not about dignity, it's about letting the law do its job. I could have reacted with anger, but that would have fed into the very chaos I wanted to avoid. Today, justice spoke louder than fists. Nathaniel exited later, flanked by his lawyer and 2 security aides. He looked smaller now, his usual swagger gone, replaced by a tense uncertainty. Even the wind seemed to mock him as it caught the edges of his expensive coat, whipping it against his legs. He avoided eye contact with Walter entirely, aware that the man he had assaulted would now forever occupy a place of moral authority in his memory. By the time the courtroom emptied completely, Walter had been helped into a waiting car. He sat quietly, letting the moment sink in. Though he could not see the world around him, he felt the shift in its balance, the invisible scales tilting toward fairness, if only for a moment. Inside, the judge returned to his chambers, removing his robes and setting the gavel aside. Judge Caprio knew that moments like these were rare, but essential. The law was not just words on paper, it was the living embodiment of accountability. And today, it had spoken clearly. Walter, blind but unbowed, had reminded everyone present that courage and integrity were not measured in sight, wealth, or privilege, but in resilience, patience, and the unwavering belief that justice must prevail. And Nathaniel Carrington, heir to political power, had learned the hardest lesson of all, that no amount of influence could shield him from the consequences of his own actions. As the courthouse doors closed behind the departing crowd, silence settled over the chamber. The echoes of confrontation, justice, and hard-earned respect lingered in the air. Walter Hayes had come seeking vindication, and the law, embodied by Judge Caprio, had delivered it with precision. Outside, the city continued its hustle and bustle, unaware of the quiet, powerful lesson that had unfolded behind those tall, solemn doors. And in that quiet, the message was clear: in the eyes of true justice, no one is untouchable, and no wrong is without consequence.